those of you out there looking for the perfect gift at Christmas time, we have a great one for you. It's a new book that is authored by Mr. Jim Rooney, son of Dan Rooney, and it's called A Different Way to Win. And Jim, I know you put a lot of hours into this book. First of all, tell me about why you decided to do it, and overall, what kind of book is this?
Yep. Thanks, Bob, and it's good to be with you. So we try to tell a story about my father's approach to sort of his professional life business, and we try to show that you can have civility, that you can treat people well, that you don't have to be consumed by greed, but you still can be very successful. And I think that that's what he did. So that was sort of the basic of the story. We took four main perspectives of his life, or four main activities of his life. Obviously the Steelers of the 1970s, and before that we weren't very good, and what he did to sort of help this organization become what it became. His work as an influencer in the National Football League, and how they went from really a sandlot thing when he first started to a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. His time in Ireland and the contribution to the peace process. And then finally, the Rooney Rule and his contribution that now is used globally in all different types of industry to diversity in the hiring practices.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to say about a man like Dan Rooney is the fact that he touched not just football people. I think because you're an owner of a football team, people think you're just doing that. I want to get back to what you said about Northern Ireland, and that was so important to him. I know he eventually became ambassador, but when he first got involved there, what did you see from your father that made you know, man, this is somebody special who's willing to bring people together?
Well, I guess one of the sort of funny stories, you sort of knew my dad and his how gutsy he was with his flying and those types of things. So one day we're right on the border, and he knew as an American citizen that things weren't going to be, he always had a little bit of a special card to play. So they stop us at the border, and he was driving a little too fast, which he always did, and they put the guns right inside the car. And my mother and everyone, we're scared to death, and he starts laughing. And as soon as he started speaking with an American accent, the British are not going to, we're not going to take on an American, but you understood that this was something different than just a sort of dispute amongst communities, and you had that sense of the ever-present violence, the ever-present military presence, and his willingness to commit to getting involved in the process, but also doing it a certain way, where there were a lot of people who were funding things that would continue the violence. And it was a lot harder to say, wait a minute, there's a third way here. There's a way that we can have dialogue, that we can try to bring some type of reconciliation amongst people. And he was always working to bring different groups of people together. And he went into Derry, he went into Newry, he went into Belfast. And these towns, they looked like movie scenes from World War II. I mean, there were buildings collapsed on the ground, just piles of rocks. Things that are somewhat hard for us to imagine, but he went there, and he went there every year for 20 years and really committed to trying to make a difference there.
That's what I remember most of him, because he talked about Ireland so just unbelievably, and what his role there. You talk about the Rooney Rule, all these things, bringing people together for the betterment of humanity. I think that's the biggest thing you can say about Dan Rooney. And I know you interviewed a lot of people. There's some great reading out there, ladies and gentlemen. So do yourself a favor, if you have a Steeler fan, A Different Way to Win goes on sale tomorrow. All Steeler fans should have it. The great Dan Rooney, remembered by his son, Jim. Thanks, Jim, for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.